Yeah, my name's Alan Lee. I was diagnosed I'd say about 6 years ago. Um, since I've been diagnosed with it, I've learned a lot more about it, which I didn't know beforehand. Um, I met a lot of people on my journey, but I want to do things. I like to take my time on them. People tell me how to do things, and when I do them, when they talk about them, I can't get an idea what they're talking about. But I do them, and it ends up I've done them the same way they said anyway originally.
Hi, yeah, my name's Roy. I'm 72 years of age, and I live with Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's diseases. I was born in Wallasey on the Wirral Peninsula, and I went over there a couple of weeks ago, and looking across from the promenade across the whole of the Mersey, really, from the mouth of the Mersey down towards the Liver buildings and so on and so forth, and it was amazing to bring back memories of how busy the Mersey was. It was like a motorway of ships going backwards and forwards. Of course, nowadays that's all gone with the introduction of the container terminal. But it just brought back so many memories of my formative years in Wallasey on the Wirral. Okay, Alan, have your friendships changed since you were diagnosed? That's a big question, isn't it?
Well, it has actually. It
Definitely.
has with people I knew because they just don't seem to want to know me anymore now. My grandkids and children do and all that, yeah. But regardless of
Outside of the family,
yeah,
yeah.
regardless of the family, we've got no one outside. But obviously, with you and Stan and the group, they're outside the family. I found them all my friends now.
Well, it's the same for me. I mean, I used to have loads of friends to do with Liverpool Football Club,
Yeah.
being a fanatical Liverpool fan, fell walking groups, and once I started to speak about dementia and the effects and so on, people appeared to slowly back away. Now,
Yeah.
I thought I had good friends that I could rely on, because that's what friendship's about.
It's supposed to be.
And it wasn't, and came to the conclusion that people, for some reason, couldn't cope with anything to do with mental health. If it's a physical problem, and Stan, our other friend, has said the same thing, and he won't mind me saying this, he has a form of cancer.
So yeah.
And people are all over him with that. But if he mentions dementia, or whatever type of dementia, which is Alzheimer's in his case, they back away. For some reason, they can't cope with it,
No.
or anything to do with mental health. What's the other thing? Has the group helped you with loneliness? God,
Yes.
101 million%, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're back to this. Here's your diagnosis, here's medication. See ya.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And you think, oh my
I'll
God.
call you in the 6 months.
6 months, like the care navigator's phone I think it's every 3 months
Yeah.
now. Or if you know, I have a CPN, community
So, yeah.
psychiatric nurse, that phones me or visits.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have any of that, and you guys, bloody hell, sorry for swearing, but I can't imagine what it would be like.
I had a bit of.
Because there's no surgery you can have
No.
to correct it,
No.
there's no cure,
No.
there's no medication can slow it down. So you can split the word loneliness up, can't you? It's fear as well.
Yeah, that does help.
Hi, I'm Tommy Dunn, BM, and I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2011, the 19th of December, to be exact, it was our wedding anniversary. When I was first told I had Alzheimer's, the fear just ran through my body, and I thought that my life was over. And I thought I was going to be actually put in a home. But that is a thing of the past now, because since I've got involved with all my groups, I found out that you can live a different life following a diagnosis of dementia. At those groups, I found the importance of having peer support, because without peer support, I don't think I'd be here talking to you today. Without peer support, you actually live a very, very lonely life. When you meet your peers, you're able to get out into the community, you're able to become part of the community, you're able to contribute to society, and you're able to feel a worthwhile person.
I'm Sarah Butchard. I'm a clinical psychologist and I work with people living with dementia. Over the years that I've worked in dementia, I've seen the importance of relationships and in building and maintaining relationships, and the impact that that can have on a person's well-being when they're living with dementia, both in terms of kind of helping them feel involved in the world, but also in really flourishing in their life. So I'm very committed and passionate about ensuring that we set up services that facilitate relationship building, and that these are available to everyone, no matter where they live. Okay, that's what we've got here for you. I think you might have answered this a little bit already, but has the group helped you with loneliness?
Yeah, without a doubt, because loneliness is one of the biggest things in dementia. You know, it's not the fear or the thing. You become very, very lonely, and people don't know what loneliness actually means, you know, because they think it means being alone by yourself, you know. But I often say the loneliest I've ever felt was in a room full of people who ignored me.
Yeah.
So loneliness isn't being alone or without people. Loneliness is people ignoring you and not understanding and not wanting to talk to you because you've got dementia.
Yeah, yeah. And what's helped with that? What's made that feel better?
I think it's educating people about what dementia is, and that it's not a contagious disease, and you know that we're not lunatics, and that you know we still are the same person within.
Yeah.
You know, we've just got an illness, and that's different. You know, if I had cancer, they'd still talk to you different, but because you have dementia,
Yeah.
you know, for some reason, and I think the media's and the film industry's portrayal of people with media is always Bedlam, wasn't it? You know, and people can't think with dementia, and you know, and then the papers coming up with you know, there's a cure. The Daily Express used to come out every week with there's a cure. You know, drink a glass of wine, eat red grapes, you know, drink plenty of coffee, do this, you know.
And then the next week it will be don't do those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Stan Limber. I'm 78. I've got the early onset of Alzheimer's and I was diagnosed in 2014. My form of Alzheimer's is just my short-term memory. I'm a lot more fortunate than most people because it is my short-term memory, and by that I mean anything within 2 to 3 seconds, picking a pen up, putting it down, I forget where it is and it's gone, it's lost. I'm not a Liverpudlian by birth, I'm a Mancunian. I've only lived here for 67 years and I came here in about 1957 with my parents when my dad installed some machines at the Liverpool Echo. My first introduction to school in Liverpool was the day my brother and I went to Lister Drive Secondary Modern off Green Lane. That was like stepping back into the dark ages. I gave the headmaster a letter of introduction from the Manchester Education Authority. He read through it and he asked me if I could play football. I said no. Can you swim? I said no. He said, what the bloody hell have they sent you here for? It was literally like stepping back into the dark ages. His study was a raft of trophies and cups and God knows what else. Academically, well, I'll give you a bit of a hint. I failed my 11 plus, but within 2 to 3 months of being there, I became deputy head boy and a house captain and a prefect.
Has the group or groups helped you with loneliness? Tremendously so, because one, I don't feel that living with dementia, I'm living it alone. Because like I've said, before Zoom, before the technology, we phoned each other up on a very, very regular basis. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were introduced to other forms such as Skype and obviously Zoom, which you don't feel alone, that we can come on, and we do, twice a day, sometimes for hours on end, with each other, Stan and other members of the groups that come on and use Zoom. You don't feel... technologically, it seems to help to remove loneliness.
Yeah, I've got a lot from being in the groups, but what I found, as you know, certain aspects of a group situation I can't go along with. If I think people are doing things wrong, then rather than break up the group or create ruptures in the group, I would stand back.
But are they doing anything wrong, or is it the disease, the type of dementia
No,
they've
I'm
got?
talking about. I'm not talking about people with dementia. I'm talking about people
generally
who haven't got dementia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or equally, I'm quite happy with my own company. I always have been. But yet I've got a lot more depth of a friendship with you than I have had with a lot of people because of this common bond of dementia.
We're in the same bloody boat.
I can stop. It's not just that. I've worked with people for 40 odd years.
Yeah.
You know, apprentices that started the same minute, gone right through to the years.
Yeah.
But I've never had the same depth of relationship.
Yeah, is that because we both ended up in this position?
Yeah, I think that's it.
And the empathy with each other, the understanding, the patience. It's taught me patience. Maybe in my working life, perhaps I should have had more patience.
So my name's Paul Hitchmo. I live in Liverpool. I'm 70 years of age. And I got diagnosed 8 years ago with early onset Alzheimer's. So a bit of a shock, as it is to everybody, after you go through your denial stage and your worrying stage and everything else, then, you know, and then it hits home. You've got no job. You can't drive anymore. It's all a massive incantation of all this stuff what you think will never happen to you, but it has. So you have to move on with things. And through the last 8 years, because I'm interested, I've always been interested and kept myself fit, and always been very interested in music. So they're the two things what have kept me going during the journey of Alzheimer's. And I play my guitar and piano almost every day, to a reasonable standard. And I've also when I left work, I always wanted to record music. And so I started off going to a studio, and then a friend of mine who's also got Alzheimer's, Tommy Dunn, writes the lyrics for the songs. And we've done about 12, and there's a couple more in the pipelines, and it's all to do with dementia. So we feel that way, we're just giving something back, and it's a very enjoyable and a new skill, and a nice way of spending your days sometimes. which people with Alzheimer need. We need focus and we need to be getting out and doing stuff, and so that's the way we do it. And Tommy's got his golf and I've got my piano and guitar in the house, so we can both get through the days with doing what we've always loved. So I will sing. So many times I couldn't hold you. So many times I couldn't told you. You always come to me. So I will sing la 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 so many times.
Well, have your friendships changed since your diagnosis of dementia?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people who are aware of my Alzheimer's, they kind of shy away from me. People who have known for years, I suppose. In one respect, I suppose that they're frightened of engaging in the conversation with me. So, but the thing is, it's very stigmatic because it hurts me. There's been a few occasions when I've been in the supermarket or I've been walking down the street and you can see them dart away. So you feel a little bit lonely when they do that. But as time goes on, you just get used to it. So I mean, I always look at it's their loss. If you don't want to talk or engage with me, then it's their loss.
Yeah. Do you think it's true the fear of the dementia or the ignorance of not knowing what dementia actually is?
That's definitely the ignorance of not knowing what it is. Yeah, very much so. And I think that's down to the awareness and just the general situation of if they haven't got anybody in the family or they don't know anybody, it's like they think I'm mad and I'm going to talk in voices or something. So again, it's getting back to a little bit of stigmatization. But again, it's something you have to deal with, along the journey. So that's the way it is.
Have you become more empathetic by meeting others in the group that have got dementia?
Yeah, very much so, because when I first got diagnosed, I was in denial, rejected everything, thinking a lot, I finished work, couldn't drive no more, wondering where the next penny was coming from, really. So when I got invited to the Mossley Hill groups and joined other post-diagnostic people who'd been diagnosed with forms of dementia, and I began to realise that things could change then. And there's a lot of not sympathy, but a lot of common sense was shown towards me, and that's what I fed off, and that's what I've got to this stage in my life now where I feel a lot better about things. Some things change, but other things don't. So it's the other things, the good things you concentrate on, to make those steps forward.
Right. How has meeting others with dementia actually helped you confronting your fear of dementia?
Well, I think we're all in the same boat. Everyone is unique. Every person who's diagnosed with dementia is unique and react in different ways. But certainly along my path, I've found nothing but good people, and like you just mentioned, empathy, who've been kind towards me and understood things. So I've really enjoyed going to the groups and enjoying their company. I'm finding out new things all the time, and things what I can do, not what I was told by doctors and academics what you can't do, and that was a big life change and made a big difference to my life.
Do you think by meeting those people that, because they're going through exactly what you're going through, you don't have to explain yourself and you can just be yourself, be your natural self?
Yeah. Well, as you know, it becomes a lot easier as well, Tom.
But that's it. Okay. So, has the group actually helped you with the loneliness of dementia?
Yeah, again, very much so. Particularly the last couple of years when the COVID was prevalent in the UK, and then you get that you know, with your family and your friends, I had to stay away. So it was good to keep in touch by Zoom, if nothing else, to the groups what I'm associated with, and so that made me feel a lot better. At least I was engaging and talking to people, even though it wasn't face to face. So Zoom actually become a good friend with people living with dementia, and I'm sure you found that out yourself.
Yeah. So you actually learned a new skill, you know, using technology.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I'm a technophobe, but yeah, I did. I learned how to Zoom and how to handle that situation and how to respond. And the thing is, with people living with dementia, it's again, as you know yourself, we only have a small concentration level. So the Zooms, whether they were half an hour or 40 minutes, leading up to an hour, was enough. But at least you had contact with people, and then you could talk and discuss, you know, the vagaries of life and stuff like that. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, we've got to be very careful though that Zoom doesn't take away the actual meeting people face to face.
Yeah, well, the big question, isn't it now? Is everybody going to work from home? Is everybody going to be on a Zoom? And then there is no face-to-face talking, which I think that would be a terrible bad thing, is particularly people living with dementia who need that social contact and those social alliances what keep us going, yeah.
Okay,
I said it.
thanks, Tommy.
Have you become more empathetic by meeting others in a group?
Do you know, I think that's a really interesting question. I think that there's something that this sense of really understanding dementia for me has massively changed from meeting people like yourself, Tommy, and others. But I remember when I first worked in dementia services, and I'd worked there for quite a while, and we talked about living well with dementia. And I did believe you could live well, and I could see evidence of it. But then when we started doing more work together, and when particularly we were doing things like Innovate Dementia and other projects where people with dementia were leading the way, I think I actually started to believe it. And I hadn't until then, I don't think. I think I'd thought I did, but I don't think I really did. I think I was still very frightened of what it would be like if I got dementia. And working in this service, you're confronted with that all the time. So you sort of think, what would it be like if it happened to me? And I could talk to other people about living well, but I'm not sure I fully believed that I'd live well. But I think the thing that's changed most for me with being involved with yourself and others in the group is that I actually do believe that you can go on to have a life with dementia. And I know it might not be the same as the life you were going to have before, but actually a really meaningful life that's kind of full of purpose, doing really exciting things, and actually really fun as well. Because I know some of the things we've had really good laughs, Tommy, and we've really enjoyed times, and you know, we've been to London together and had good fun and kind of got lost and been running around, and but actually that feels like a really natural part of life. And I think for me, so this idea of empathy in my role is more about kind of thinking, I guess, about how it might apply to me if it was to happen to me. And actually I feel I owe a real debt of gratitude to yourself and your peers really for changing my attitude towards that, and I hope that other people can get that from working with the group, because I kind of feel that if I can, as someone who works in that service, I hope that other people who are living with dementia
Yeah.
can get that as well and start to really understand it.
Yeah, well, I know from my own personal experience that I used to have sympathy with people who had dementia, but working with the groups and yourself, I've learned to have empathy with the groups, and that's a big difference, you know. We're not feeling sorry for people now, we're understanding the people, and that's when we can make a difference.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really big thing, isn't it? It's not necessarily about feeling sorry for someone, it's because there's lots of reasons that life's changed, but it doesn't have to be like a sympathy, like you say, but it does need understanding, doesn't it?
That's all we need, can understand. If people take the time to listen to the people with dementia and to listen to yourself, you know, they can understand what dementia is and they can take the fear out of it.
Absolutely. I think that is definitely what's happened for me. It's made a massive difference in that, and I feel a lot less fearful about that for my future. Obviously, with the best respect, I would rather not go on to develop dementia, but I know that lots of people do in the within the population, that it's not it is a chance that I will go on to develop that, and I feel a lot less fearful about it than I did before.
Well, that's a stride forward.
Absolutely.
Next one.
Next one. What? Have you become more empathetic by meeting others in the group? Definitely.
Yes, I would agree with that. Well, as I say, you know that I've changed out of all recognition.
From the day I met you, which is probably 8 years down the line, you're a different human being, and you're something. Well, get it? Yeah, I'm sorry.
God, you can be nasty. I don't mind.
No. It's the disease has changed you.
Yeah, well, I've become. I know from my own thing.
From what you were.
I'm a lot more outgoing. Because I'm a lot more confident with the situation that I've got.
Yeah.
And I know I can talk with a degree of confidence about that.
Yeah.
Because the people I'm talking to are actually interested in what I'm saying. And what I say to a lot of people has got a lot of credence, and they accept it as it is.
In empathy, and I think I've said to you this only a few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, I wish I had, when I was working in nursing, I had the more knowledge and more understanding, if you like, in dealing with people with dementia and mental health problems than I had.
Well, I had another one.
Because I think I would have been a better carer, a better nurse, a better everything. I think so. I was diagnosed with Lewy body. Well, first of all, about 8 or 9 years ago, something like that. I can't remember the exact. The years go by so quickly. With Parkinson's disease or Parkinsonism, and also Lewy body dementia, which is a form of the many types of dementia, the most common being Alzheimer's, but this is Lewy body dementia. I do have minimal memory loss, where what I want to say or what I want to do or why I'm doing it just suddenly will switch off like a light for so many seconds, half a minute, whatever, and it all comes back again, thank God, at the moment. I have other problems, visual spatial problems. I have visual hallucinations and audible hallucinations. I get constantly disorientated, depressed, and I have periods of confusion, especially when I'm away from my home where I feel safe. And it's difficult to live with, but the thing is, you can either sit here all day, watch TV, take the medication, which obviously does help, and it wouldn't be a life. So I really push myself with the support of obviously Merseyside, the guys and girls there, the professionals, and the many friends that I've made over the years through living with dementia. So it's a package, and it all helps. How has meeting others with dementia helped with confronting fear? One of the major problems I have with Lewy body dementia is both visual and audible hallucinations. If I give you an example of a visual hallucination, is when I attempt to cross a road, especially if it's a busy road, car-wise, a lot of people about, because of the Lewy bodies. So where I walk to the edge of the pavement to step onto the road, and I look left, look right, look left again, the usual thing that we all do, where I see a car coming towards me, it's as though it's stopping and starting, stopping and starting. Not all of the time. So obviously that presents a danger for me getting across a road. There are many examples of that, and it is fear. It's chronic fear. Am I going to make it across the road? Am I going to get knocked down? But again, if I let it get to me, I'd never go out the house. So that's a negative way forward. I'm a social person. I want to meet people. I want to continue a normal life, and it's very, very difficult sometimes. It's difficult to explain it, but maybe that can give you an idea of visual spatial problems in Lewy body dementia.
So I'm Julie, and I care for my husband Phil, who has frontotemporal lobe dementia and Parkinson's. Is that right? Yeah. Is that all you want? Are you ready for this? You're listening? As a carer, what have you learnt from meeting others in the group? Well, what have we learnt, Pip? We've learnt that we've met a lot of friends, haven't we? Do you reckon? We met a lot of friends, and we've met a lot of helpers. We've met a lot of experts, haven't we? And we've had some good times, haven't we? What have we learnt from meeting others in the group? We've learnt that we're not alone, haven't we? We've met some lovely people who are now our good friends, haven't we? Yes. It's lovely. We'd like to see them. What else have I learnt from meeting others in the group? We've learnt how to cope, haven't we? We learnt how to cope being a carer. I'm sure you've learnt how to cope with me. I think that's probably about as much as I can say on that one at the moment. Is that all right?
Yeah, so if you just, when you finish one and then
On
go
to
on
the
to the
next.
next one, yeah.
You ready for me to read this now? Have your friendships changed since the diagnosis of dementia? Well, I think they have, haven't they? We've got a lot of new friends, haven't we? There's not a lot of friends from our old days, is there? We haven't got a lot of old friends. We've got a lot of new friends in the dementia world, haven't we? Yes, we have. Who have we got? We've got Roy, and we've got Hilary, and you've got Barbara and Jeff, haven't you? Are they all your friends? I think they are. And they're all friends from the dementia world, haven't they? And they're all knowing how we have to deal with things, and they help us deal, don't they, Pip? Is that right? And they love you, don't they?
My name's Ron. I'm a full-time carer for my wife, who's been diagnosed with vascular dementia in 2014. She's had 2 brain scans to diagnose that she has the dementia, and from there on we get on with life.
How would life be different if you didn't have these group meetings?
You possibly could be isolated in a way and wouldn't know which way to turn. There's definitely a benefit from group meetings, but without it, I think it'd be a big loss, really, you know. I mean, a lot of these places are charity run as well, and you know, they get no support of any kind. So it's good that they're available for you, you know.
And what about during the pandemic? When these meetings didn't happen, what did you do in the different lockdowns?
Not a lot, I don't suppose. I can't remember really. We're involved with a firm called Healthiness. It's an exercise group, and they were doing on video and YouTube. So we used to do that in front of the television and do our exercises then, you know, which went on for a while, and I supported them. When we normally pay to go, I supported them with some money, sending them some money like to help to support them, because again, like most of these things, they're charities, you know. But apart from that, I don't think we did what we had to do, get out and about and walk and that type of thing, you know.
Okay. What do you find stressful about being a carer? Or is there anything?
Well, you don't get a blow, let's put it that way. It's a 24-hour job, and I pity anyone who may have to do it in the future. Compared to what I see what some people have to do, I've got it easy. Though I've got a lot to do, and it's a 24-hour job, make no bones about that. And I feel sorry for some people when you see on the television who have a hell of a job compared to what I've got, you know.
I'm Pauline. I'm the wife of Tony, who has been diagnosed, in 2017 with dementia. He's got Alzheimer's. He spent several weeks in hospital after he was sectioned in 2019, and then went into a full-time nursing care facility. His dementia has deteriorated rapidly in the last 2 years, particularly through the lockdown period, when of course I was unable to see him for 6 months or so, and then only for brief visits for half an hour in the garden, perhaps an hour if I was lucky, and maybe in his room after some more months. Now of course things are back to normal more or less, and I'm able to visit freely and spend as much time as I like with him.
My name's Jo. I care for my husband Rob, who has early onset vascular dementia. He was diagnosed officially when he was 58, which it's been a bit of an onward journey because of the fact that he's quite young. So therefore, it's had quite a devastating effect on our life, because there's lots of things that we would have liked to have done, which we're no longer able to do.
But yeah, I mean, he just used to be very quiet. He just didn't get involved, and he still doesn't. That's another aspect of his dementia. He doesn't really get involved with activities.
No.
In the care home. So, even when I go to visit him, apart from taking him for a walk in the garden for maybe 10 minutes, because he's not too steady on his feet now, I'm at a loss really what to do, you know, time-wise. We can spend 10 minutes eating a bag of Maltesers, you know.
Yeah.
And I that's why I usually go and give him his lunch or his tea, because two things behind that being that I know that he's going to get a good meal when I'm there, because I don't think the care home allow much time for them to eat in the dining room. And last night, for example, it took almost an hour for him to eat 2 courses, a pudding and a main course, because he didn't open his eyes the whole time I was there. And I was spoon feeding him, and it was just like open wide, you know, and pop it in. And he was eating it, but he just wasn't in the room.
Yeah. The problem is when they don't speak to you, well, that's isolation again, isn't it?
It is.
Because
Yeah.
Rob, most days,
It's
he
a very
hardly
lonely
says,
life, to be
well,
honest.
he hardly says 2 words to me, you know. And I think when he's out in the groups, you were saying about him not speaking so much like he does with as Roy and Stan, I think he feels inhibited because there's a conversation going on and he wants to say something, but by the time he's been able to think about it and open his mouth, somebody else has jumped in and completely taken that conversation somewhere else. So he just gives up. He doesn't speak.
I know. Yeah, it's difficult. It really is. So, well, we need the groups, really, don't we, to keep us in contact with people. And yeah, we have a laugh with Chuckle Brothers.
Well, yeah.
It keeps our spirits up as well, even though we're, you know, dying inside sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
It's a hidden thing being a carer, because you do suffer, and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
No, they don't.
No.
No.
And yeah, you do feel a certain amount of guilt if your loved one's in a care home, but even though there's nothing you can do about it sometimes, you know, I mean, it was taken out with my hands. Tony was sectioned. So, but, you know, if I had a £5 for every time I've had a tear, I'd be a rich woman now. I could go on a cruise every day of the week.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's my other outlet, of course.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, so we have a...
Right, what is the most stressful part of being a carer?
That's mainly for you now.
Well, really, I suppose one of the worst parts mentally is that you're thinking and doing for 2 people, not just yourself.
Yeah.
Everything you do, you've got to do for 2 people. You're responsible for anything to do with the finances, the health, you know, appointments, hospitals, and then, you know, the restrictions that they have to help you in the home as well. So you're permanently sort of, well, you are 2 people. That's the worst thing.
I know. And you're having to look after all the finances and everything else that goes with it.
Well, yeah.
Because apart from, like, I don't know if Rob does this, but Tony used to hide his money when he was at home, and then accused me of stealing it and things like that. You know.
No.
That's quite stressful when you get that all the time.
Yeah.
And he was always wanting to, like, go out, he would try the doors and things, because I had to keep them locked so that he couldn't just disappear when I was in the bathroom or something.
I'll go to the other concept I've got. If it gets to that particular point, I can't do anything about it. It's like I can't do anything about
the cancer. No.
The guy
and I admire how you cope with this
cancer.
cancer.
Can't do it is Mr. Vengapur, the consultant.
Yeah.
Oh, it's his problem, not mine.
Yeah, and the specialist
it
nurses.
It might be my bladder, but it's his job.
Yeah.
So what's the point in worrying about it?
But I wouldn't like anybody to think that I'm going to go and suddenly top myself. I'm just saying I live in the real world, I'm being realistic, and I start to think, God, so far down the line, if I end up like those, that is not living.
Yeah, but the same token, if you say that to somebody that's not in our boat,
yes,
they go, oh my God.
Yes, and I've had that reaction. I've had that people reel back,
that's
you know.
What we need to get away from.
And maybe, and it goes through government every now and again, it gets to the House of Lords and it gets thrown out. And I understand why. I understand totally why the laws...
all right, well, take it to the other extreme, the funny side of it. You're in the House of Lords, right? You've only got there because you're elderly.
Well, judging by the House of Lords, I'll be asleep and I've probably had too much to drink, and I'm about 90.
So you're elderly decrepit, right?
Yeah.
And some young thing comes in and says, oh, right, Sir Mr. Foden, how old are you? 93. Well, all right, what we'll do, we think you're now senile, we're going to do away with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Euthanasia.
Yeah,
oh,
there's dangers.
Are you going to agree to it?
Yeah, and then
Oh, you will.
asking members of the medical doctors to actually end. But yeah, I understand all that.
Anyway,
yeah,
we're getting a bit more.
That's off the bloody
Let's-
point.
let's
It's
question.
loneliness. In a nutshell, without these guys, it would be horrendous.
Well, loneliness doesn't bother me. I'll be honest. I can.
How has meeting others with dementia helped with confronting fear?
Well, we've just covered.
We've
it in
just
that sense.
covered a lot of that.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Stan. And it's trying to push the fear to one side and keep it to one side with
Yeah, but by
what
the
we've
same
seen and
token,
what working
retaining
life
the
over.
fact that it's an inevitable.
And it's inevitable. We've all got to go some time or
Yeah.
other. I know. I think a better ways
Well,
of
if I
going.
get to 79, I'll be happy. Then I'll go to 70, 80. Then I'll keep going up.
I can't imagine you being 8-0, an octogenarian.
It's only-
Can't imagine it, but
it's
there
only
you go.
Year and 3 months off.
How is meeting others with dementia? Yeah, you learn from others.
You learn from others.
You learn
you
from
get-
others. Not only the person with dementia, with the loved ones as well.
Yeah.
You learn.
Well, again, I made a
shocked
self-conscious
sometimes.
decision when I was diagnosed. I did not want my family looking after me.
Personal choice. Yeah.
That's my personal choice.
Yeah.
What I've said is, okay, if I get to the point where I can't tie my own shoelaces or I can't cook my own tea, then I'll come to you and say, look, can you give me a hand?
Yeah.
At the minute, they've got their own lives to lead. They've got their own
You're
children
fighting
to
to
lead.
keep your
Yeah,
independence.
independence. Or as my mother would say, sorry, my mum would say, you're bloody stubborn.
Yeah.
That's another interpretation of our independence. We want to retain what we've got.
And being able to discuss with, where possible, with other dementia sufferers about confronting their fears, that is sometimes incredible. I find that incredible when they'll say to you, I might say, for instance, about hallucinations, and they'll say, yeah, it does happen to me every now and again. And
but,
how do you react to it?
well,
You get into that conversation.
Well, I react to you. You say, "Oh yeah, I had that hallucination the other
Yes.
night." I said, "What was that?" Well, I pulled the bedclothes back, and there's a dog in the
There's
bed.
a dog there.
Well, what did I say to you? Have you got a license for it? But that is
Yes, it's a method. There's a method in the madness.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot, but that's probably one of the best statements I've ever heard from you about when we've talked about hallucinations or other people.
That is me
Have
being
you got a
against
license
it,
for
yeah.
it? Yes.
It's all right. I said.
Good
to
job
you,
it's not a cat, because you
I've
don't need a
got-
license.
I had an hallucination, or I thought I did,
Yeah, I don't know.
and I'm looking up.
Yes, I don't know.
God, is that a spider?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
only when I decided to get up and have a close look at it, it was just tassel on the curtain.
You mentioned about insects.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm covered in them. And you go and have a bath or a shower and you're trying to wash something off that isn't actually in the real there. And okay, but you still go and do it. I don't know why you do it, but I know
Yeah, but you
open.
don't, you
It's
don't
not
stand
there.
there.
But what happens when the time might come where I'm not able to realise, is that real, for real or not? Oh my
Well,
God.
then you ask yourself, did I turn the shower on?
I don't know. But there's no point in me dwelling on that at the moment. I know all these happenings, I think, are not real.
Yeah, but do you find that actually talking about them to
Talking about it helps,
Yeah, it helps
Confronting, as we've said here in the question, you're confronting the fear, and we talked about it yesterday with the psychologist as well, about anxiety and stress, yeah. There's a hell of a lot to learn.
Oh yeah, but again, I think that's where you go back to the group situation where you've got other people you can relate to and bounce something off. Rather than, okay, is this new for me?
Yes.
Oh no, I've done that.
Yeah.
But I got a license for my dog. She can stay in the bed.
It's a big question, that confronting fear, because it does, dementia, probably in all its forms, it does introduce fear.
Yeah. I think
to try and not.
Myself, I'm not frightened of it because I can't do anything to control it.
We're all made different. I use mindfulness to try and deflect.
Yeah, well, I'd sooner go fishing to Calderstone.
Which is a form of like we discussed that yesterday.
Yeah.
In your example, fishing is you're in the zone, aren't you, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, again, that girl said, all right, we're going to do this exercise of trying to relax and get you into
and you're scanning your body.
I said, right, well,
Scanning
I
your body,
don't.
what you're doing.
I
You do
just
it with the
visualise the float while I'm fishing.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll catch
see
something.
the float, and the float is the first float I ever had with the first fish.
See, what you do, you're using that form, you are visually concentrating on that float.
Yeah.
So you'll go into a
works.
more relaxed,
Because I associate where I am.
Great.
I'm out in the countryside, I'm fishing.
Yeah.
It's a farmer's field, blah blah blah.
Yeah. The surroundings are visually.
Yeah, like I said, I go home from a day's fishing. I'm not bothered if I'm not caught anything.
Yeah.
All the problems have gone because subconsciously I've worked my way through them. Right, we've got another one.
Right. I was nervous of these questions to start with, but
nothing to be nervous about.
Why aren't there more post-diagnostic groups in the UK?
One word, money.
It's money. It's money. Many people are given a diagnosis of dementia without any support in a supposedly caring society. What should happen? Well, I think at the outset, when you know something is going wrong mentally and physical problems, you go to the GP. They finally refer you to such as Lee Moss over the road, which was Mossley Hill, or another psychiatric unit. Brain scans and blood tests and all the rest of it. So they come up with a diagnosis, and it's like being hit by a train. Bang! It's shocked. It's just shock. Thank God Almighty, And there are lots of people that I know for a fact they're given a diagnosis. They're not necessarily given any medication because not everybody is on medication, Alan. And then they just seem to be left. And we do that Three Nations thing where we're talking to people from all over the UK, certainly England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, that have had diagnoses, and Wales, so the whole of the UK. Yeah. And it's terrifying to think that in certain parts of the UK there is no support.
They've got to start themselves.
And they self-create their own support.
Well, it's like what we've done.
I know there's only a limited amount of money available within the NHS, of course, but it's chronic.
It's like what you stand on, isn't it? Creating these groups. Which
came about because of the pandemic, where we couldn't physically meet anymore, either directly with the NHS or... So we created groups using Zoom, using the technology.
It's like that over there, isn't it? That's a special accommodation when you got
from the brain charity,
you got recognised for what you've done.
Well, but that's because you're trying to give a little bit back, isn't it? At the end of the day,
well, at least you know you appreciate it.
And like that phone call I've just had, you see, I can't imagine what it would be like with no support at all. It must be, and it does happen. We found out, as I said before, through the Three Nations Zoom. Was it Essex and down Kent was awful. Up in the northeast, there was an area there where there was nothing. Well, here's your diagnosis. Bye. That was it. Get on with it.
Medication for the rest of your life. So
and at that point, you're going to know nothing. Probably know nothing about dementia.
Anyway, you can pick up. You can read
and you're just picking up bits and pieces off the internet, which I've done it myself, which is not necessarily the truth.
No, but when you come to talk to people like ourselves, you learn more from them.
You learn from each other.
Because not everybody's going to be the same.
And you can't expect the NHS to provide everything. There's too many of us and not enough professionals.
It's like my nephew, my grandson was saying the other day, the amount of adult people over a certain age is getting more and more now. And obviously that's more.
I didn't put the thickener in the drink.
Okay.
It's down the wrong way, so I forgot. What I should have done is end up emptying my lungs if I'm not careful. Forgot to put it in to make it thicker. I'll leave it out until the next time. Sorry. It's gone, it's okay. We're breathing.
But I really think that it's completely unethical to give someone a diagnosis of dementia without them putting support behind it. Because what you're effectively doing is saying, here's a diagnosis that's absolutely life-changing, off you go and deal with it. So for me, I think there's some bare minimums. One is that everybody should be offered follow-up very soon after to give them a chance to talk about that diagnosis, to give them a chance to ask the questions they need to ask, because there's a multitude of questions that people have, isn't it, after a diagnosis. And if you don't do that, ultimately people will go on to Dr. Google and will find all sorts of information that is often devastating, and even from really reputable sources often jumps right to the later stages of dementia. So for me, there should be something around people having access to a really caring, knowledgeable person who they can ask questions of early on. And then what we've been talking about throughout this interview, really about kind of being able to access services which give you good quality information, which allow you to explore the feelings around getting a diagnosis of dementia, which don't shy away from that, which involves both the person living with dementia and other significant others about them, whether it be family, friends, whoever, so that you're going through that journey together. And that it should also involve meeting other people living with dementia. So for me, that would be a bare minimum. The way that that's done is going to differ place to place, isn't it? And we've got our own way of doing that through groups, but actually there could be other ways of doing it. But I think that has to be the minimum, that you get that and that it's tailored around your individual needs. I think there's big issues about how we reach out to people from other communities, which we know, but actually for the minimum, I think that idea about a society that is caring, empathic, should be providing that for people living with dementia, and should be doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because it's kind of an add-on to something else.
I've spoken to people from rural areas that have been given a diagnosis of dementia, and then that's it. Nothing, So I think it must be absolutely devastating, to know that there's nothing there for you. That's why I totally agree that as a minimum there's got to be something there in place. Many people are given a diagnosis of dementia without any support. In a caring society, what should happen?
Ooh, that's a very, very loaded question, and a very political question again, because I think the government don't do enough. Funding wise, we're well down on the funding scale. The levels where other disabilities can look forward to. So I think by and large, I forgot the question. I'm random. Give us a cut, Taj. Do that one again. Do that question again. Yeah. Oh, you're running, are you? What's the question?
Let me do it again. Right. Put your hand down, I'll do the question. Okay. Many people are given a diagnosis of dementia without support. In a caring society, what should actually happen?
Yeah, well, in a caring society, it would be utopia if everybody understood the vagaries of dementia, and you could have like 100% support all through the journey, but it doesn't work that way. There are a lot of pockets of good things happening, and you can join in with. But at the same time, I think the funding for dementia is very, very low. I think all the mainstream societies do well, without naming names. But I think the localised sections, like up here in Liverpool, maybe Manchester, the northwest, which is underprivileged by nature, don't get a fair slice of the cake. So I think a lot more could be done through funding.
Yeah. What actual support did you get when you first diagnosed with dementia?
Well, after going out of my denial stage, I got a lot of support from Mossley Hill Hospital, and then my family when they understood what was going on, and my friends, my close friends. So I did get a lot of support. I wasn't like just drifting in the ocean. They were there for me and still are full time. So from that respect, I do very well.
Is that all of them? Okay. See, that wasn't too long.
No, really good.
Is that okay?
Can we go to the pub now?